They tumble out into a world that feels both painfully real and strangely distant. Dust and smoke cling to their clothes and skin. The air tastes of cordite and burning plastic. For a moment they lie on the ground, breathing hard and counting limbs, checking for blood, checking for teeth. Reflex takes over as fingers search for wounds, small shrapnel slices, singed hair, a deeper ache near the ribs where a bruise will bloom later. Pain flares and is pushed down by adrenaline. Around them the battle rages on, a soundscape of distant machine gun rattle, sharp pops of rounds and the thud of other vehicles moving in and out of range. They pull themselves to cover, huddling behind a low mound or the broken husk of their own tank, and their minds race through everything that just happened. The medic arrives with a small kit and a steady hand, asking nothing but doing everything. He rips away shirts, presses gauze to burns, checks pupils, listens for breath. He gives morphine or a sedative when needed, not for indulgence but to steady shaking hands and quiet the noise inside a head that keeps replaying the explosion in slow motion. One crewman who seemed fine moments ago starts to wobble. A concussion can hide beneath bravado and grit. They whisper reassurances to each other, short words clipped and practical, because long speeches would crumble the fragile calm. Someone lights a cigarette, though none of them want it. It's a tiny ritual of normalcy, a human act in the middle of metal and death. Command sends in backup, and engineers begin casualty collection. They mark the tank with paint, so recovery teams know what to do later. Armored reinforcements form a ring, sweeping the area for any remaining threats, while radio operators call in coordinates and a damage report. The crew gives their immediate accounts, voice still rough, the angle of the incoming missile, the time between the flash and the explosion, which systems went dead first. These details will feed into reports written under fluorescent lights later, but right now the facts are raw and urgent. An intelligence officer jots notes, eyes narrowed, already forming questions about ambush patterns and enemy tactics. When a vehicle like a Merkava burns and is left on the field, it becomes both evidence and a lesson. Recovery teams will drag it from the mud, bag pieces of armor, photograph every scar. Engineers will examine melted wiring and warped plates to learn what failed and what survived. They will test the fire suppression canisters, measure the angle of penetration, and ask why a safety latch didn't hold or why a sensor went dark. The men who walked away will be asked the same questions. Their memories, fragmented by smoke and pain, are valuable data. That work is clinical and necessary, but it cannot erase what the crew felt when the world inside the tank turned into a furnace. Back at the field hospital, the quiet is different. It hums with generators and the soft beeps of monitors. Bandages are changed, burns are cleaned, and a soldier who earlier joked and cursed now stares at the ceiling, listening to the echo in his head that refuses to fade. The commander is called into a debriefing, where officers speak in measured tones about tactics and doctrine. He answers with the same economy of words he used in the hull moments before. He knows he must be precise. Lives might depend on it. After the formalities, someone brings tea and the men share small stories. Where they grew up, a laugh about a mechanic who once fixed a radio with chewing gum. Those moments stitch together the frayed edges of a day that broke them and kept them alive. In the days that follow, the mental work begins. Some of the crew return quickly to training, climbing into another tank with hands that know the exact bolt to tighten and the exact radio frequency to call. They move with a professionalism born of repetition and necessity. Others hesitate. The scent of burned insulation, the flash behind their eyes, the memory of a comrade's hand reaching for the hatch. These things do not obey orders. Some are sent home to rest, to walk in sunlight that doesn't smell of smoke, to sit with family and relearn what a quiet night feels like. Therapy, conversation time, each has a role in stitching the invisible wounds. The army fosters resilience, but human beings mend at their own pace. When they stand before a replacement Merkava weeks later, many will run their hands over the metal, as if greeting an old friend. They will check the seals, the straps on the ammunition boxes, the feel of the hatch. They will ride again because survival is not only about escaping once, it is about returning to the task with knowledge, hardened respect and an unspoken vow to watch one another more closely. The tank that burned will be a lesson written in scorched steel. The men who survived will be its footnote, carrying the proofs of their survival in scar tissue, and in the rigid way one of them now scans the horizon. And in quiet moments, long after the smoke has cleared, they will tell the story to each other in fragments, short sentences, half jokes, the way veterans fold horror into ordinary talk so it becomes bearable. They will return to duty or to civvy life with a deeper understanding of what the metal was for. Not glory or spectacle, but the simplest, oldest promise of war, to protect those inside so they can step out into a world that keeps turning. They stumble through the dust and smoke, lungs burning, hearts pounding as the battlefield continues to roar around them. The smell of gunpowder hangs heavy in the air, mingled with the acrid stench of burning metal. Every breath feels like swallowing fire. They can still feel the vibration of the hit echoing in their bones, the sound of cracking armor, the scream of alarms. As they look back, the Merkava that protected them is now a blazing inferno. The flames reach toward the sky, consuming the vehicle that had once been their shield, their home and in many ways their brother in battle. Each of them reacts differently. The gunner kneels in the dirt, staring in disbelief at the fire, his face expressionless, his mind unable to accept what just happened. The loader coughs violently, trying to clear the smoke from his lungs, his eyes watering from the sting of ash and dust. The driver sits motionless for a few seconds, clutching the dirt with trembling hands as adrenaline drains away, leaving only exhaustion. The commander, his face streaked with soot and sweat, forces himself to stand tall. He knows that the crew will look to him for direction, even now, even in this chaos. The medic runs toward them, shouting through the noise of explosions. His uniform is smeared with dust and blood from other wounded soldiers. He drops beside the crew and begins his rapid checks, his movements sharp and practiced. He cleans burns, wraps bandages around arms and legs, and injects morphine into the ones grimacing from pain. The crew doesn't speak much. They just exchange silent looks, relief, disbelief, and a strange kind of sadness. Their tank is gone, but they are still breathing. For a tank crew, survival after a direct hit is both victory and heartbreak. They know how many never get this chance. Watching their Merkava burn is like watching a friend die. They remember its sound when it moved across the desert, the way its engine growled to life, the faint oil smell that always lingered inside. They remember the long hours spent maintaining it, checking the tracks, cleaning the cannon, loading shells. The tank had carried them through countless missions. It had been their armor and their hope. Now as the flames eat away at its shell, they realize just how much of themselves was inside that machine. When the battle finally ends and reinforcements secure the area, the crew is escorted back to base. The ride back is silent. The medics keep an eye on their vitals, while the commander sits quietly, lost in thought. His mind replays the moment of the impact over and over. The flash, the sound, the rush of heat, the desperate scramble to escape. Every second of that memory is burned into his mind. At the medical tent, doctors move quickly, checking for internal injuries, broken ribs, concussions, and shock. The harsh smell of antiseptic replaces the scent of smoke and dust. Each man is questioned gently but firmly. They describe what they remember, the direction of the missile, the time of the strike, how the systems reacted, how fast the fire spread. The information is valuable, but for them, recounting it feels like reliving it. After the examinations, they are given water and a place to rest. Their hands still shake as they lift the cups to their lips. Their uniforms are torn and blackened. Some have burns, others have cuts across their faces and arms. Despite the pain, there's a quiet pride among them, a deep unspoken understanding that the Merkava kept its promise. It took the blow meant for them and gave them the seconds they needed to live. When night falls, they gather outside the tent. The sky is dark and the air is cooler now, but the memories of heat and noise still cling to them. They sit together without speaking for a while, each lost in thought. Eventually, one of them breaks the silence with a small laugh, dry, almost bitter, but it's enough to lighten the moment. They talk softly about the battle, what went right, what went wrong. None of them mention fear, though it sat in each of their chests like a stone. Instead, they talk about the tank, the machine that saved them. They know that soon they'll be assigned a new Merkava. They'll climb into it again, feel the familiar weight of the hatch closing overhead, and breathe in that distinct metallic scent that never truly fades. They'll check the systems, test the turret, load the shells, and get ready to face the battlefield once more. Because that's what soldiers do. They return not for the machine but for the men beside them. Back home, families receive the news that their sons have survived. Relief floods their hearts, but fear lingers behind it. They know what it means when someone survives a tank hit. It means their child stood inches away from death. The Merkava's design, its armor and its systems have saved countless lives, but even the best protection cannot guarantee safety. Some crews never come back. Those who do carry invisible scars, flashbacks, sleepless nights, and the sound of explosions that never quite leave their minds. Weeks later, the burned-out remains of the tank are hauled back to an engineering site. Teams of specialists inspect every piece of twisted armor, every melted wire. They photograph, measure, and analyze. They want to know how to make the next generation even stronger. The crew visits once, standing silently beside the wreck. There's nothing left to repair, but seeing it again gives them closure. They touch the blackened hull one last time before walking away. Life moves forward, but the memory never fades. Inside their new tank, every vibration, every sound, every flicker of light brings them back to that day. Yet they do their duty without hesitation. The fear becomes a companion, the memory becomes a teacher, and the bond between them grows unbreakable. They've faced death and walked away together. That changes men forever. The Merkava is more than just steel and machinery. It is a promise made of armor and courage. Its purpose is simple but sacred, to bring its crew home alive. When a missile strikes and the world turns into chaos, that promise is tested. And when the crew crawls out of the fire, bruised and breathing, the tank has fulfilled its purpose. As the smoke fades and silence takes hold of the battlefield, the story of the Merkava crew becomes a testament to human strength and resilience. Behind every tank, there are men who turn fear into focus and metal into legend. They fight not just for victory, but for each other. They endure, they survive, and they carry their stories with them. If you want to hear more untold stories of courage, survival, and the unbreakable spirit of those who face the impossible, stay with us. This is WW2 Reels.